What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys a final set of spoilers of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 6. As a reminder, Chapter 6 will drop officially on the 18th on Manga Plus, as well as the Viz Media app and website. So I'll have the review out on the 18th, but my editor and I will be using the translations from my buddies over at OP Scan's website. If you've been watching the chapter reviews of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, you know Team Naruto Explain has been cooking on those reviews, with chapters 1 through 5 being hands down the best edited videos on the channel. And it's all thanks to my patrons we're able to raise the quality on those, so trust that the wait will be worth it. We won't be the first one to drop the review, but best believe I got my best editor on the channel working on the review itself. Like always, even though I've seen the raw scans, I'm only going to break down the things that grab my attention, and I'll save everything else for the chapter review when I had time to verify some translations with some of the translators who I'm close with. Because while I do read Boruto on the official website, I have noticed that Boruto's translators that Viz Media has for English are making some of the mistakes that the translators for Jujutsu Kaisen in English are making. The fan scans are better. So jumping right into the spoilers, we got some big reveals from Boruto having brand new powers confirmed to us, to finally getting confirmation of something that we've been told for 7 years now about a certain jutsu that Boruto has known since part 1 but has never used in the manga, to Boruto versus Mitsuki happening under some very intense circumstances. The first thing we have to go over is when Boruto fights against Mitsuki, he is finally showcasing his purple lightning jutsu that we've known for years now, that Boruto has actually known the jutsu, but he's never felt confident enough to use it in combat. Just looking at some of the responses I've seen online of people wondering, how does Boruto know this jutsu? And there are a lot of people saying that they're confused or they're calling this a plot hole. And this is what I will say again: reading the physical volumes of the Boruto manga and reading the light novels set in this era, it fills in a lot of gaps for you if you only read the chapters digitally on the Viz Media app or on the Manga Plus app, or if you're someone who's only watched the Boruto Naruto Next Generation's anime and just jumped into the manga once the anime ended. That's why you're confused. Boruto has known Purple Lightning since part 1. The official character profile for Boruto in the manga lists that as one of his primary jutsu, as well as others that Boruto hadn't used in the manga at that point in time, and we wouldn't officially see him use those jutsu listed until the anime aired a year after the profile dropped. Purple Lightning was one of the ones listed, and in the Sasuke Shinin teaches Star Pupil story set before the Mujina Bandits arc takes place, which I've covered start to finish here on the channel, when Sasuke is training Boruto, he directly states that he's seen Boruto use Purple Lightning before, comparing a jutsu he's trying to teach Team 7 to that jutsu itself, which it pays off the line of what Sasuke said in the anime. Once Boruto has gone back and relearned the basics of lightning release, since Boruto learned it quickly and skipped all the basics, there will be more advanced lightning release jutsu that could be taught to Boruto and that Boruto could learn, since Sasuke couldn't pass down his Chidori to Boruto. Purple Lightning is safe for someone like Boruto or Kakashi to use because it doesn't have the tunnel vision that only the Sharingan can overcome. And when Boruto fights Mitsuki, he uses it in the way that is straight vintage Sasuke Uchiha, and somewhere Sasuke's probably smiling if he doesn't have a splinter on his face. Boruto runs Purple Lightning through his blade in order to sharpen it, very similar to how Sasuke would run Chidori through his sword to increase the cutting power. However, that's not the only trick Boruto has picked up from his training with Sasuke. He's also learned to make use out of his surrounding, the same way that Sasuke uses Rinnegan's Ameneteji Kara Jutsu, where Sasuke swap places with himself and other objects, or even swap places with other ninjutsu that someone fired off. Boruto, when he's cornered by Sage Mode Mitsuki, he throws the sword into the air, which already has been marked by his sealing formula, and weaves the hand seal for the flying raijin jutsu, and Boruto teleports to the sword in order to put space between himself and bloodlusted Mitsuki, while simultaneously checking the area to see if Mitsuki came alone or not, which Mitsuki actually did, and we'll touch on why later on. While Boruto's master of the flying raijin hasn't reached the levels of, say, someone like Minato, who could perform the flying raijin with the hand seal, and most importantly without weaving the hand seal at all, Boruto shows that level of quick thinking and unorthodox methods that make him truly the grandson of the 4th Hokage and the son of the unpredictable, wild-natured 7th Hokage. What's interesting here is that Boruto, even when faced with Mitsuki being openly bloodlusted, is still pretty calm. If anything else, he looks more annoyed at the situation, and that's where Boruto shows us another one of his powers. he's able to use flight like other Otsutsuki, and he flies off in order to put distance between himself and Mitsuki, as well as to prevent any of the pending combat from actually getting to a point where it would destroy a section of the village. Boruto might be branded a rogue ninja right now, but he's still loyal to the village itself, which is big for his character development. Now, this is also pretty big just given that we're seeing the line of what Amado told us finally getting paid off, which is that Boruto and Kawaki, as their bodies adjust to their Otsutsuki genetics, they too will begin flying around the village and using more of the powers of the Otsutsuki, and now we're seeing that happen. Not necessarily saying to expect Boruto to eventually have a Rinnegan on the palm of his hands, but we are seeing the evolution of Boruto into becoming a true Otsutsuki now that he is 100% Otsutsuki on a genetic level. It's an interesting, but it's a wise choice that Boruto slowly showcases his powers as the story progresses, instead of just throwing us into one gigantic fight that forces him to utilize all of his new powers and jutsu all at once. This approach is actually better because it slowly adds layers to Boruto while giving us time to digest everything that we've seen from his post time skip training. Because if he were just to pop up in the village showing all these powers at once, regardless as to if he's, by his own words, still getting the hang of them, it will lead to some very disingenuous takes about him being a Gary Stu. The other interesting thing here is that Boruto knows he can't stay in Konoha for too long, and it's because he knows Kawaki will eventually come running to try and hunt him down, and Boruto's purpose isn't to battle Kawaki right now and end that dispute between brothers that he told Ada about in Boruto Naruto Next Generations chapter 80. Is merely to inform Sarada about what happened to her father, and I think the reaction from Sarada here is very justified. She is shocked, but she isn't an emotional wreck. Part of it is because she's obviously come to the conclusion earlier that those trapped in the trees who are bitten by the claw grimes, they can still be saved. So she still has that hope in her back pocket to cling to, but it's also showing a level of maturation for her character. At the end of the day, she's a shinobi. Yes, that's her father. But Sarada, as far back as Naruto guiding the 7th Hokage in the Scarlet Spring, has shown that while she can be emotional at times, as long as someone is shooting straight with her, like her parents did after the battle with Shin, she can accept the hard truths that come from being a shinobi and being the daughter of a shinobi who does dangerous things like Sasuke. I think her response is very in character. I don't see a problem with it, and I'll go a step further. If she would have turned into a puddle of tears, it would have been another excuse for people to say that Sarada is in possession of the Sakura genes and they would call her useless. Her response, it makes total sense here. Now, what I find interesting is that we see Boruto is still carrying around some of the guilt that comes from Sasuke having been turned into a tree while trying to protect him, going so far as to say it was his fault that this happened to Sasuke. This can easily be written off as stating a fact, but it also gives Boruto's character motivation now as well, and we see it on display here. It took that trauma in order to push him past his limits, because there was nothing worse than being responsible for the ones you care about being harmed, and that weakness creates thoughts like, if only I was stronger, then my master would still be here. If only I was stronger, my master would have been in this situation, and that pushes you to get stronger, because true strength comes from a response and a need and a desire to protect those that you care for. The last thing I wanted to touch on is not Kawaki getting exposed as a fraud in the chapter, which Kawaki is definitely on fraud alert. Like, I've tried to defend Kawaki here. There is no defense. My man got one shot by Mitsuki's sneak attack. Yes, it was off guard, yet at the same time, we can kind of argue he did see it coming, maybe at the last second, but our boy's on fraud alert. But what I really want to focus in on is the fact that Boruto right now is fighting Mitsuki under some pretty extreme circumstances. It's not just the village that wants Boruto dead, but it's the entire land of fire that wants Boruto's head, because he's been labeled a Kage killer. And that nickname Boruto the Betrayer is kind of hard. I can't even lie. Like, that's up there like with Minato being called the Yellow Flash or Roman Reigns calling himself the Tribal Chief. Like, there's just some nicknames and personas that they just stick. And like, that's one of them. Like, oh, even after this omnipotence stuff is completely cleared up, that's such a hard nickname. I'd still be using it regardless as to how ruthless it sounds, regardless as to how dishonorable that nickname is. That thing just go hard. I would buy some merchandise that says Boruto the Betrayer. Hell, I might even make some myself. I do like this choice story-wise because it goes back to something I said in a video a few days ago posted on the channel titled Why Boruto is Destined to be the Next Itachi. Because my guy needs this for his character growth as he takes steps forward to become the next Shadow Hokage, which you can see why I went as far as to call Boruto the next Itachi by clicking this link you see on the screen right here. And one final reminder, the chapter review will be out on the 18th.